Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be checking out the Milwaukee FastBack. So the reason I ended up picking out this guy is because for my day job I'm a technician, a service technician. So I am often repairing equipment, and sometimes it takes just a second, and other times it can take quite a while. If it takes just a second, it's kind of a hassle to break out my whole tool bag and grab my screwdriver. You may be familiar with my Milwaukee M4 electric screwdriver. I actually use that guy all the time for anything I'm using a Phillips driver. But today we have a new tool with a built-in Phillips screwdriver. So we're gonna go ahead and check this guy out and see if it's gonna fit the bill of what we need. So this is advertised to be a 6-in-1 utility knife to remove or release your box cutting blade. I actually like this. You need to push the safety here and then it will release it to be able to open that up. So I wonder, just like that. Look at that. Nice and easy. Slide it right out, put it back away, just like that. And then here on the back side, we have a frame lock style for our Phillips driver. One nice feature about this is actually lined up with the center of our knife handle here. So when you're screwing in a screw, you don't have to sit there and do one of these because it's off center. This brings it in to center alignment, which will make that a lot easier. And then on the opposite side, this is an interchangeable bit. So now we have a flat head on the back. So if we need to remove something that's flat head or flip back over to a number 2 Phillips, we can get our Phillips in there just fine. So that is actually quite a few of our things. We have number 1 is our blade here. This is a box cutter blade, so that means you never have to sharpen this, and once this does become dull, you throw it away, throw a new one in, or you can even flip the blade around. So we have a button right here that releases our blade. It's protected by this little guard, but you push that down, it releases it. You can flip that around, and now you have a fresh blade again. And then you can kind of see a little notch there. Look at that guy. That right there. This is supposed to be a wire stripper, and I got us some wires to test it on. So let's go ahead and just start by seeing if I can, like this, like that, and wow, that's perfect. That totally worked. This is some, I think it's a 14-2. It's not the thinnest stuff out there, but it's a pretty good quality standard home copper solid core wire. And that didn't cut all the way around, but where it is a razor, look at that, that's awesome. I don't think it's going to cut through the copper wire. That's gonna start doing damage to our, yeah, I can already see here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but it's already starting to do damage to our blade tip there when I went to dig in. That worked better than I expected. I expected to struggle with that a little bit. So we've got number 1, we have our cutting blade. Number 2, a wire stripper. Number 3, when we close it down, the top here becomes a bottle opener, so you can pop open your favorite drink. So just finished making a video for my other channel, Brother Not Brother, and this is a perfect opportunity to open up a bottle of soda. These ribs are a little spicy. Just like that. Pour it into a glass with some ice. Cheers. So we've got 1, 2, 3 is our bottle opener. 4 is going to be our 1/4 inch driver here. So this is it uses a 1/4 inch drive here on the end. So that's number 4. Number 5 is our flathead. Number 6 is Phillips. That's right, 6-in-1. I really feel like they're cheating when they call stuff like this 6-in-1. Because, like, is it really 6-in-1? Is it that good to call it 6-in-1? However, let's go ahead and go over some of the other features. Like, we have a wire clip to go onto your belt or onto your pocket. That is a really tough clip too. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. So you can see here I keep my Spyderco tenacious on there all the time, but let's go ahead and see how well this guy does. This is definitely thicker, but I was also honestly worried it was going to be heavier, and this is rather discreet. Aside from having like red on there, like, hey, look at me, whereas my old one was all black, so it is slightly more discreet. This isn't chrome, which will make it stand out maybe a little less. So you can see there, we got our pocket knife in there. When we need our knife, flip that guy out and we can go to town. It's not bad. Let's go ahead and continue comparing these two. I have been using this Spyderco knife for, honestly, as long as I can remember. Overall, the size is definitely shorter. I don't have such a long blade here. And this is thinner than this guy. Weight-wise, it's close, but this one is definitely heavier. I wouldn't say this is a big difference. I was expecting Milwaukee style, super sturdy skookum being like extra heavy, but this guy's actually not that bad. If I flip him back and forth, this is where it's G10 and the only part that's metal is the frame and the blade itself. Super, super light, super, like, this is the basic guy here, where this one definitely has a little bit more weight, but we also add in the feature of this, and I think I'm willing to exchange that little bit more weight for having a 1/4 inch drive. We'll find out here. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a good test. Also, another feature it has, aside from our belt clip we just looked at, is right here. We have a little hook for a lanyard, so if you're not a fan of a belt clip, this comes out with a simple Phillips head screw. So you can go ahead and remove that and then just use a lanyard on this guy to be able to pull it out of your pocket with whatever lanyard you want to use to connect it. All right, you guys, I've had a chance to test this guy out for a little bit, and it's become a mainstay already. I didn't plan that, I promise. It lives in my pocket now. I do still have my Spyderco Tenacious that is a fantastic knife. It's G10, it's super light, it's great. I've had this thing for, gosh, maybe 10 years, probably not quite 10 years, but I've had this for a long time. It is a solid pocket knife to carry. The clip every once in a while got like loose, and so I'd have to tighten that, or I've had to bend the clip itself back in, but for the most part it's been great. And then just recently I just noticed that it's been squeaky. I didn't even notice that until I started making this video. But this Milwaukee FastBack is pretty awesome. For starters, instead of the very expensive Spyderco knife, this guy goes for $20 to, I think I've seen it as high as $30, but you can usually find it between $20 and $25. Unlike my Spyderco pocket knife, I always have a sharp blade. Not because you have to sharpen it, but because you can replace it. You can either flip the blade around by just pushing the button on here, pulling the blade out, flipping it around and sliding it back in, or you can just replace the blade altogether. Speaking of replacing the blade, this guy also has a little spot here in the side for blade storage. That's right, you can store a spare blade, so if you break this one, bend it, damage it somehow, cutting into some metal or something like that, you can replace the blade really easily and always have a spare blade with you. It does clip it in place and retain it, so you don't have to worry about it ever falling out. One of the reasons that this made it into my pocket, and I didn't expect it when I bought this, is it's actually pretty light. I'm impressed with how light it really is. The weight is reasonably comparable to my Spyderco Tenacious D. It is definitely heavier, and I will give that to this whole section here, the 1/4 inch driver here on the back, but it's not a ton of extra weight, which makes it totally reasonable. It doesn't add a ton of like profile to it. This is a bulky handle on there, but it's not as bad as some others I've seen. Milwaukee even has other ones, in their FastBack line that are thicker and bulkier, like ones that have like a whole thing for storage of blades. That one's thicker and bulkier. This is light and completely reasonable in every way to me. I really like how smooth the folding is. While this one is pretty nice because you can just stick your finger in the hole and then push up to open it. This one here, all you have to do is push the button and then gravity can do the rest for you. So it makes it super easy if you just like that and open. Having the release button is kind of nice because like with knives like this one that has the frame lock here in front of the blade, it's coming down while your thumb is still there. Granted, I've done this enough that I'm confident when I close it that I don't have to worry about that, but this one, your hand is completely out of the way in all parts of the opening and closing of the knife blade procedure. Granted, it still uses the frame lock on this, but this is not gonna cut you open. You don't have to worry about your screwdriver cutting you open here. It's kind of fun to play with. It's not a spring-assisted knife or anything like that, which will make it legal in a lot of other places, but it is useful. I'm impressed. I do appreciate how sturdy it is. I like this little groove in the handle. It's like a finger notch, and then we have the jimping on the back to get some real grip on it. Not that you really need it. That little finger hook, I think, adds enough just confidence in there that you're like, yeah, I can use this for things. Like, I can slice away at something and make a cool design. The blade in there is held in really well. It does wiggle just a hair. It's a pretty minimal wiggle. I wouldn't say I'm concerned about that. This is probably just as good, if not better, than most folding utility knives like this. This overall is like a really great tool for people like myself who are in the service and repair industry that like, it just, if you're going in for a quick repair job and you're like, I only have a couple of screws that I'm gonna take out, I'm not gonna break out my big M4 Milwaukee screwdriver. Granted, it's not huge, it's just, I keep it in a tool bag. So rather than having to open up a tool bag, I just pull this out of my pocket and we're ready to go. We can knock out these 2 screws, go to the next job. And it even has a couple of extra features kind of geared towards myself and other people in the service industry, or honestly, more in the construction industry. On this blade here, you can see that there's a little notch here on the side of your blade. That's actually designed for you to put the tip of a tape measure in. And while my tape measure doesn't actually have these little lips on the end of it, you can see here in this one, it actually has these 2 little parts that stick up above the tape, and that will then hook inside, and then you can slide it down and use that as a measurement to cut things like drywall or score some wood to mark where you need to cut something. And honestly, considering all of these things, like this little hook here, like this is probably made and geared for electricians, but it's good for anyone, like professional homeowners or whatever you want to call yourself, because this wire stripper is going to be perfect for cutting things like weed eater string. Like you just throw the string in there and the hook will keep it on there and you can cut it right where you meant to. You don't have to worry about it sliding off and going crazy. It's going to go right where you wanted it to. On the driver, it does have a lock that stops at this like halfway in a T location, so you can get extra torque to really torque it down. There's a little pin in there that catches it on a little button that's on this arm itself. And then when you go all the way out, it does have that frame lock that slides out and will block it open, so it's not going to accidentally fold closed on you either while you're sitting there screwing things in and out. And of course we have our 1/4" drive, we have the flathead option, as well as our Phillips head screwdriver option. But honestly, if you have any other bits, if you need a little bit more reach, you can just grab any other 1/4" drive bit and stick it in there. It locks in, and now I have essentially a full-size screwdriver here. And then it just pulls right out. You can go back to the little mini one that'll store right away in your pocket again. That's pretty nice. You can just swap out if you have other bits you need. If you have this and maybe even like one of those little mini sets that has a whole bunch of bits on it, you can just put your most used bits on that and then walk around with those 2 things. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and go on a quick tangent. I don't know how observant everyone is, but I have this funny little wart on my computer. It's actually a tool. This is the SOG Q4? Q4. I don't think you can buy it anymore because it didn't sell well, because it's not great, but man is it cool. I'm going to take a second to tell you about how cool this thing is. So it's a multi-tool that it slides out and becomes you know, pliers, great. And then it's got obviously all of the little Leatherman tools that you would want for like a file. You got a knife, you got a flathead, you got a can opener. But then on this end, it's just like our Milwaukee, but this one is a ratcheting screwdriver. Check this guy out. So it sits there and you can tighten and loosen screws, and you can switch which way it tightens or loosens. And then this little kit here comes with a whole bunch more bits. So it has a whole bunch of tiny little star bits, flatheads, and a bunch of other different size bits. So this is actually a pretty cool tool. However, it was just it's really heavy and bulky. So if you have like a Leatherman and you're looking at something else, this would be a cool option, but you're gonna have to search on eBay for something like this. Whereas this FastBack also has been hard to find because it's so darn popular lately. I found mine at a local Ace Hardware for 22 bucks. But you might be able to find it at your local Home Depot or anything like that. So if you want an easy way to find it, I'll have a link to it on Amazon down below. There's usually a few buying options as long as it's somehow in stock. But this is a popular tool that is pretty awesome so far. The last thing I want to mention is probably my only gripe with this guy. While it is a little thicker, that doesn't really bother me. It uses a wire style clip. That's not a big deal to me either. But the weird thing for me is, you can see it right here. This side is shiny, and this side is matte and coated. Why aren't both sides matte and coated? That is like my only complaint. Like, why do you have to have two different textures on this? Like, we have a glossy metal and then like a matte coated metal. I would rather it be matte coated metal on both sides. I don't understand that part, but everything else is actually pretty cool. You can cut boxes, you can do pretty much anything else that a knife can do, but the blade is always interchangeable, and it's got a super thin blade to be able to get into little tight spots, things like that. If you appreciated this video, please consider subscribing. If you want to get this knife for yourself or many other things, I'll have links down in the description below. That'll be my link tree. It'll take you to the Amazon store. If you have questions about this or anything else in my videos, please leave those questions in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.